All right, fight fans, get ready because we are diving deep into a matchup that has everybody talking.
Everybody.
Mike Tyson, the legend, Iron Mike himself, is coming back to the ring, and he's facing Jake Paul.
The YouTuber turned boxer.
Yeah, you heard that right, YouTuber turned boxer.
This is a real clash of worlds, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's like oil and water.
You got a 58-year-old legend
58-year-old legend.
against a 27-year-old internet personality.
27 years old.
And this is all going down on Friday, November 15th.
November 15th.
At the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas.
AT&T Stadium, home of the Dallas Cowboys. 80,000 seats. We're not talking about some small venue here.
This is a spectacle, a massive event.
And what makes this even more interesting to me is that you can catch all the action on Netflix.
That's right, no pay-per-view this time.
No pay-per-view.
Netflix could really be changing the game here for how we watch boxing.
It makes you think, is Netflix trying to be the new home for boxing fans?
It's a really interesting question.
Are we seeing the future of the sport right in front of us?
You know, we've always relied on pay-per-view for these huge fights, but streaming services like Netflix could completely disrupt that whole model.
Right, and this fight might be the test to see if it's worth it for them to invest more in boxing.
Exactly like a trial run.
Speaking of investments, let's talk about Mike Tyson and what he's bringing to the ring.
Oh, yeah.
His last professional fight was back in June of 2005.
Wow.
That's almost 20 years ago.
That's a long time.
Can he really turn back the clock and be the baddest man on the planet again?
Well, he's got the experience, that's for sure.
He does.
Tyson has an incredible 50 wins and only 6 losses.
And 44 knockouts.
Yeah, 44 knockouts, a knockout rate that would make anyone nervous, but...
58 is 58 even for Iron Mike.
Right, age is a factor.
And there have been some concerns about his health.
There have been.
Remember that ulcer flare-up that postponed the fight back in July?
Yeah, I remember that.
It makes you wonder, can his body really handle a professional fight, even if the rounds are shorter?
That's true.
Yeah.
They are going with 8 rounds and just 2 minutes per round.
Which is shorter than the usual professional fights.
Yeah, and they're using 14-ounce gloves, too.
Oh, yeah. Those are heavier than the standard 10-ounce gloves.
Right. It seems like they are trying to find that balance. You know, protect Tyson a bit,
Keep him safe.
but still give the fans some exciting action.
Okay, but let's talk about those 14-ounce gloves for a minute.
Yeah.
Heavier gloves mean slower punches,
True.
but they also mean each hit packs way more force.
Oh, yeah.
So is this to protect both fighters, or is it an advantage for Tyson as a power puncher?
Interesting point. You know those iconic knockouts?
Right.
Imagine that power behind a 14-ounce glove.
It could be a game changer.
It really could.
This is a tough one to predict.
It is. You have Tyson's power and experience.
And then you have Jake Paul, who's been surprising everyone.
He has.
I know some people still see him as this sideshow act,
I get that.
but the guy has won 10 out of his 11 fights since 2020.
He's been racking up those wins.
He's fought MMA fighters, ex-NBA players.
Mm-hmm.
He even went the distance with Tommy Fury, even though he lost that fight.
Yeah, he did.
What's really interesting is how different his career has been.
It's unconventional for sure.
He hasn't followed the traditional boxing path at all.
He's picked his opponents strategically.
Opponents that create buzz and controversy.
Exactly. And slowly, he's been building his credibility as a boxer.
And a win against Tyson, even now,
It
would be huge for him.
It would be a massive leap forward in his career.
It would silence so many of his critics.
The ones who say he's just a YouTuber playing at boxing.
What would a win even look like for Jake Paul? I mean, what would he do next?
I think beating Tyson would take him to a whole new level of legitimacy in the boxing world.
Yeah.
It would open doors to bigger fights, maybe even against some big names in the heavyweight division.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the headlines, YouTube star conquers boxing legend.
That's wild.
It would be a defining moment for him.
Yeah.
It would be a real underdog story.
It would, but what if that story doesn't have a happy ending?
What if Tyson wins?
What if Tyson proves that experience and power are what matter most?
Mm-hmm.
Let's flip the script and think about what happens if Jake Paul loses.
Okay.
He's already got that loss to Tommy Fury.
He does.
So another loss, especially to someone like Tyson.
Could really hurt his boxing goals.
It could, yeah.
People would start questioning if he can really compete at the top level, you know?
Yeah.
Especially against experienced heavyweights.
It could even derail his whole boxing career.
It could.
But then again,
Yeah.
Paul is all about proving people wrong.
He does like to defy expectations.
Maybe a loss would just make him work even harder.
It could light a fire under him.
Yeah, push him to improve his technique and come back stronger.
He's shown that he can learn and adapt.
He has.
And he's got a great team behind him.
Oh, yeah. He's not messing around.
He's taking this seriously.
So we've got Tyson fighting for his legacy, Paul fighting for recognition.
In a clash of generations.
And then you add in Netflix streaming the fight globally. It feels like there's more at stake here than just who wins the fight.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes.
This fight really shows the changes happening in boxing right now.
It does. You've got the rise of celebrity boxing.
Yeah.
The influence of streaming services.
And even countries like Saudi Arabia getting involved hosting these huge fights.
They're investing a lot in boxing.
It's like boxing is at a crossroads.
In a way, it is.
You've got these huge events making tons of money.
Yeah.
But then you have to wonder, are these spectacle fights overshadowing the real competitive boxing matches?
That's a good point. Some people worry that the focus on entertainment is taking away from the sport itself.
So how do you find that balance?
Right. How do you keep the competitive spirit of boxing alive while also attracting new fans?
And Netflix streaming this site is a huge part of attracting new fans.
Absolutely.
No more expensive pay-per-view anyone with Netflix can watch.
That's millions of potential viewers.
Do you think other streaming platforms are going to want a piece of this?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Really?
They're always looking for new content to get more subscribers.
Makes sense.
And live sports are a big draw.
Imagine bidding wars between streaming giants for boxing matches.
That would be interesting.
It would change everything.
The economics of boxing would be totally different.
And fighters could earn even more money.
Potentially.
It could also give them more control over their careers.
That's an interesting thought.
Imagine boxers negotiating directly with streaming platforms.
Cutting out the traditional promoters.
Yeah, it would shift the power dynamics.
And give fighters more control over their brand.
That's a really interesting point.
And then you have Saudi Arabia adding another layer to all of this.
Yeah, their involvement is complicated.
They're offering huge amounts of money to attract top fighters.
But there are ethical concerns, too.
Definitely some people accuse them of sports washing.
Using boxing to improve their image.
And distract from their human rights record.
So it puts the boxing world in a tough spot.
It does. It's a balancing act.
You have the potential for growth and money.
But also the question of ethics.
Yeah, is it right for boxing to align with regimes that have questionable human rights records?
This is a debate happening in lots of sports right now.
It is. It's not just boxing.
Where's the line between sport and politics?
Yeah. How do you balance opportunities with what's right?
These are questions everyone involved in boxing needs to think about.
Fighters, fans, governing bodies.
As the sport changes, these questions become more important.
And fights like Tyson versus Paul bring these issues to light.
They do.
It's not just about two guys in the ring.
It's about the forces that are shaping the future of boxing.
This fight really is a symbol of how much things are changing.
It is a clash between old and new.
Tradition and innovation.
And it has implications that go way beyond the fight itself.
It really makes you think, where is boxing headed?
What role will events like this play in its future?
We'll definitely be talking more about that as things develop.
We will. But for now, let's take a break and come back to finish up our deep dive into the world of boxing.
Sounds good. Stay with us. Okay, we are back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into this Tyson-Paul matchup.
It's amazing how much attention this fight is getting.
It really is. Even people who don't usually watch boxing are talking about it.
It's like a cultural moment, you know?
It is.
Yeah.
You have Tyson and the nostalgia factor.
Oh, yeah. Everyone remembers Iron Mike.
Then you have Jake Paul and all the social media hype.
And you can't forget Netflix.
Exactly, streaming the fight worldwide.
Millions of people can watch.
They've created this perfect storm of excitement and accessibility.
It's like they threw out the old boxing rule book.
Yeah, Friday Night Football Stadium, streaming on a platform known for movies and TV shows.
This is a whole new approach.
So we've talked about the fighters, the stakes, the streaming platform, the global impact.
What else is there?
But let's bring it back to the listener for a second.
Okay.
Why should anyone care about this fight?
I think this fight is a window into the future of boxing. It shows how the sport can change with the times.
Adapt to new media,
Reach new audiences.
use celebrity and technology.
Exactly.
It reminds us that boxing is more than just a sport.
It's a part of our culture.
It's full of drama and stories.
It makes us think about money power and how entertainment is changing.
Here we have a legend coming out of retirement to fight a YouTube star.
And it's being streamed globally on a platform that didn't even exist back when Tyson was in his prime.
It's pretty wild when you think about it.
It is.
And the result of this fight, no matter who wins, will have a huge impact on boxing.
It could change how fighters are promoted,
How fights get financed.
even how fans watch the sport.
So as you're watching this fight,
Yeah.
don't just focus on the punches.
Think about the bigger picture.
What does this fight tell us about boxing today?
Is it a step forward or a step towards something completely different?
That's a great question.
And it's one that will be debated for a long time.
One thing is for sure, this fight is a game changer. And this is just the beginning of a crazy new era for boxing.
Get ready for the ride.
Grab your snacks, settle in, and prepare for a night that people will be talking about for years to come.
They will be.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of boxing. And be sure to share your thoughts and predictions using the hashtag #DeepDiveTysonPaul.
Let us know what you think.
We'll see you ringside.